Onyx has been one of those companies that releases things at such a rapid pace it's hard to keep track of what's what. Fitting in line with that schedule comes the Go 7, and honestly, knowing everything we know, this is going backwards a little bit, because they're not using Wacom, and we'll explain a little bit later. But for now, let's look at some specs and the body. Underneath the hood is everything you would expect from an Onyx device: 300 ppi, Google Play, SD card, and a 2300 milliamp battery. In terms of anything that this breaks the mold on, well, nothing. It doesn't have anything particularly special about it when comparing to its device history. The backing, although used before on other units, is still to this day my favorite feel of any plastic on the back of an ebook reader, offering a good amount of grip and a very nice textured appearance. With the device itself, if you've seen our coverage on the Go Color 7, it's the exact same thing. So we have a flush screen and bezel, we have some physical page turn buttons on one side, you have a power button on the bottom, and where's the USB-C on this side? Yes. So we have the USB-C, we have the single microphone and single speaker. There is an opposing microphone on this side as well, so you got stereo mics and single speaker. Yes, there are two grills, but it's just a fake speaker grill and there's actually a microphone there. If you take your SIM removal tool, you reveal a SIM. No, you don't. It's a micro SD card. But that's really cool because micro SD cards and the trays themselves are a little bit of a dying breed. A lot of manufacturers just don't do micro SDs anymore in lieu of multiple storage options to get more money and sell you bigger options. Because it is a flush screen and bezel, the reflectivity is higher than, say, an Amazon Kindle Basic or a Pocketbook Verse. However, it is still pretty good and it cuts down on a lot of glare. Comparing it really quick to the color variant, you'll see how much darker it is. This is because Kaleido is inherently darker than traditional, regular black and white e-paper because of the color array filter. It's just something you have to deal with. Now you have everything at the bottom here: library, store, storage, app settings, and notes. We'll get into a bunch of those in a little bit, and a lot happens here on the drop down, and we'll go through a lot more of this because basically this is going to be an identical review to the Go Color 7, so we'll try to mix it up. You have eink center, rotate, feedback, nav ball, AI assistant, free mark. Free mark's really cool. We'll just touch on that really quick because they took a page out of the book of Bigme with global handwriting. So what this is a top priority drawing feature where you can draw over anything, even the buttons at the bottom. From there, it'll take a screenshot, or you can press X to get out of it and say save, do not save, etc. So that's actually a pretty cool feature because if there's something you cannot take notes on, like Gmail, for example, you now have the ability to take notes on it. You have quick notes, kids mode, books drop, screen monitoring, screenshot, scrolling screenshot, full refresh, screen recorder, mute notification, do not disturb, location, hotspot, airplane mode, books drop, and stylus. A lot of these can be customized as well, and you have your volume control right here. You do have the battery information on the bottom here. It says brush this to update the battery. It's going to basically coincide with how much battery is still left on the unit because you can't snap it to the side to update it, and we'll get into the pen in just a second. You do have the glow light, you have regular and warm, and it gives you that alert if you turn it up too high because it'll be bad for your eyes, etc. So you can do candle light and you can do just kind of normal. You're gonna live and die by this, which is your e-ink settings. This is where all the fun stuff happens. These are your speed modes, which will dynamically change based off of what app you're using, and you have dark color enhancement and light color filter. You also have high contrast off and on, and you have refresh modes more. System refresh, drag to refresh, when scrolling a page, current app, animation filter time, a lot of different stuff here. We will go over a few of these when we hit the video section. Now we'll try to touch on a little bit more of the lifestyle things that we don't usually touch on because it's just things in passing that you'll find yourselves when you buy one of these. So you have your library toggles here, you have your folders, so when you download things and when you put things on your device, it's going to organize itself in different sections. You have this, which is synchronize, and this will synchronize between your Google Drive, your OneDrive, your Dropbox, and some Chinese ones as well, like Youdao, I don't know how to pronounce that, Evernote, etc. So these are a lot of different synchronizational things that a lot of manufacturers don't give you right out of the gates. Now, granted, you could just go to Google Play and download a lot of these, but it's nice to have them kind of preloaded. The store is silly, and this isn't a dig at Onyx, because Onyx is a very, very good company, but the store makes no sense because it's just a lot of public domain free books like Christmas Carol, The Coral Island, just a bunch of fairy tale things that are in the public domain. So they're not New York Times bestsellers or anything like that. There's not really a whole lot of reason to have the store. Even Pocketbook, for example, they have a store, but they have some pretty nice titles that you can then purchase, etc. This is literally just some random Project Gutenberg kind of clone system. You have your storage here, but there is something kind of concerning, is that right out of the gates with literally one PDF on here, this eats almost a third of the storage. 28%, yes, I know it's not a third, but it's more fun to say a third of the storage is allocated to the device itself. You do have that SD card on the side though, so you can go and buy one and increase your storage. Apps is where all your applications are going to be, and we'll show you that in a second. Settings we're not going to show you. Reason being, oh my goodness, there's a lot of settings. So there's languages, date, time, power, etc. There's a lot here. System display gives you all of this. You can pause the video at any given time if you want to see this. We're not going to go through every single one. There is simply too much here. You have some store settings, you have password, you have battery saver. There's a ton of different things you can do here. But we are going to touch on two things that are kind of specific to this unit in a way. Gestures. So you can change the navigation bar to a ton of different layouts and jumbling the whatever, the back, the home, the more, the settings, etc. Or you can utilize gestures. You can actually toggle the navigation bar on or off and just use gestures. Bottom right up is back, bottom left up is eink center, bottom center up is back/home. So you have the ability to utilize side gestures as well, left and right, swipe up, down, left from the right and right from the left, and then you have some other where you can do screenshot with 3 fingers, and then you have automatically stored yada yada. You can have a lot of discovering time and adventure time with just diving through all these settings. There are a great deal of them. I like this one, which is the smart button settings. You don't have to use these for page turns. In fact, you do have the function to change what you want them to do. So when you're on Google Play Books, do you want them to do volume or do you want to allocate them to page turn? Page turn makes more sense because it's not a multimedia type of thing. You can do long press function. So if you click on this, your long press can be rotate 90, back to home screen, scrolling screenshot, multitasker, free mark, AI. There's so many things. It's silly how much they allow you to allocate to long press left, long press right, short press left, short press right, long press duration. What do you deem long? Is it a 0.5 or is it 1, 2? You got to hold it like that. There is a great deal of customization on a device such as this. It's going far above and beyond a lot of manufacturers when it comes to that. Notes, we will just dive in a little bit. We've done the note-taking section a bunch on a bunch of different units, especially this latest line, and we're going to start by bashing the pen. And I don't mean this to come off as silly or childish or uninformed, because we have been in the world of digital stylus for 11 years now. And I will tell you from personal experience and experience of collaborating with some of the biggest companies in the scope like Pilot and Stadler Germany and Lamy, that it's never a good sign when a manufacturer abandons Wacom / passive EMR, which basically is the regular stylus pen, and moves over to an active capacitive pen. There are 90% more negatives with a pen like this than positives. And trust me, we do know a little bit about what we're talking about. Unlike the absolute plethora of pens you can use when it comes to Wacom, when it comes to active capacitive, you move to a proprietary system, which means essentially only this pen will work on here. You might find some crossover with other active capacitive pens from random Windows Surface tablets or something, but nothing will cross over onto this. With Wacom, you have about 57 choices in the current landscape. With this one, you got one, this pen. Also, Wacom, you don't need to charge. This one you need to charge, and it's actually low on batteries right now. Also, these tips are no longer the price efficient / cheap tips when it comes to Wacom. These are expensive and proprietary tips. Furthermore, the biggest thing, at least for me, is the lack of realism. There is no more character to this pen. There's no soul. It's just a means to an end. You put it on the page, you draw a line, it's done. It's not any faster or slower than Wacom. And it's just slippery and slimy, and there's no grip, there's no feeling through the pen. It's really just a dull experience. Does it work? Absolutely. And you know, some people like the Apple Pencil style approach where it's very slippery and feels like you're writing on glass. A lot of people like that, but what I'm saying is, objectively speaking, the realism of trying to match a real pencil is more achievable with something like a Wacom pen that has a graphite composite tip than something like this pen. Now, the note-taking experience is, bar none, the best note-taking experience in the game of any manufacturer ever when it comes to the customization, the palette, the color choices, and the features. No one comes close to Onyx. If I wanted to draw this little pyramid with a dotted line in a dark gray, thick line, that would take me so long to do that. And in one swipe, I'm done. I roll up my blueprints and I'm done for the day. It is extraordinary how robust this is. And it's a little bit concerning that other manufacturers simply just don't emulate this. It won't be a matter of copying. It's just a matter of staying up with the times. Things like Fujitsu, things like the Amazon Kindle Scribe, they don't put enough effort in the software to really bring home these kind of features. These aren't intensive features. They're just simple shaping. They're just enough to give you a lot more customization. And I don't know the hesitancy of a lot of big major brands, bigger than Onyx by a large multiplier, that just neglect to put any sort of these in practice, and I'm not sure why. You have AI features that does shape perfection, scribbling, and you can do transcribing the text you write on the screen. All of these can be toggled on or off, text recognition as well. You'll notice that something we've noticed ourselves with the current 3 line of devices is that these feel a little bit cheaper than the previous units. And monetarily speaking, they are cheaper because they're just not as good from a snappy, responsive perspective. They're just a little bit slower. The hitboxes are, well, all pun intended, hit or miss, and really it's not as snappy and refined as their previous units. I do kind of believe the Go line has been exhibiting a lot more economical. There's lots of different ways you can change pages as well. You can press the physical page turn buttons, in which case they trigger the page turn animation, but they don't allow you to control it, or you can swipe or you can tap. When you do hold and swipe, you can now curl the page, and it's kind of really nice to have that. Although it is a little bit draining because it's just a little bit slow, and you might say, is there something I can do to mitigate this? You can go over to the eink center. Again, that touch is just a little bit hit or miss. Now, when you're on Regal, you see it is a little bit more sloppy and slimy, but it ends up giving you a nice crispy image. And then when you go over to something like A2, now we're really fast, so we're going to be into some speed. You can see the fluidity has increased tenfold, but the overall imagery is poorer, and you see there's some staining and ghosting in the background. There's still a little bit of a gray tinge from the previous image. You can see all that text right there. So you would either have to deal with it or do a forced refresh every single time. Now, the functionality of how you change text and stuff like that is not too important to show. Reason being, it's going to vary drastically based on the app you're using. We're just using Google Play Books because it's preloaded, essentially. But with this, if you want to know, you can change the fonts, you can change the lighting, you can change the background theme to black and white sepia, you can increase the font size, you can do the line spacing, you can do one page, you can do scrolling, all that fun stuff. And really, the long presses and stuff is going to be pretty identical to Aldeco and Moon Plus Reader, and every other reading app is going to give you some degree of this. You can add notes, define, translate, etc. Now, you'll see on Play Books, I don't have the ability to draw. I can only do highlights. So you might say, well, how do I draw? Well, that's where that FreeMark global handwriting comes into play. Because on something that doesn't allow stylus interaction, now I have stylus interaction. So I can mark it up, and then I can click this, and I can send it via QR code to someone's WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger, and they scan it, and then they have my markups and my annotations. So that's how seamless the experience is with Onyx. You know, I'm really upset at the fact that I have to tap more than once for so many things. And you might be thinking, it's not that big of a deal, it's just an extra tap. That's kind of not the point. When you receive something, especially hundreds and hundreds of dollars USD, you kind of expect it to work to the flawless degree that they're advertising it. You don't want to have to tap things 2 or 3 times for it to function. That's not our job, that's the job of the manufacturer to make sure it works. It's the same kind of thing we saw exhibited with the Remarkable Paper Pro, where they say, hey, there's going to be some staining and there's going to be a whole lot of refreshing issues. Well, can't you figure that out before you go to market? Because again, that shouldn't be on the onus of the consumer, especially after having dropped $1,000 on your unit. Manga is more authentic on this than the color version because it's more true to form. It's black and white, it's very vibrant, and I think overall they pull it off a lot better than the color version. Again, if you're getting into the whole world of balancing your speed modes, you might want to go to speed mode or maybe even go to HD. HD is slow to move, slow to refresh, but man, does it look good. Look at this. Seamless and clean visual. I love the black and white nature on this. You know, color as good as it is, we've been around color for a long time, and I must say, at the end of the day, nothing beats a good old-fashioned black and white e-reader. I'm not saying you have to be devoid of features. I actually like the amount of features that bigme and Onyx and HiRead and all these companies give you, because it's better to have something and not need it than to need it and not have it. And this device never leaves you wanting. It has everything on it. It really does, all the time. Anything you want, you go to Google Play. Any synchronization feature you want, it's gonna be here. Anything you want in the storage, if you run out of room, you put an SD card. Honestly, they have thought of a lot of things. On a personal note, I hate this pen. I do not like active capacitive pens. It's really a shot to the foot of your own company when you avoid something as so simple as a passive EMR, because you go from being able to use all these pens, the Scribe pen, the Guido pen, the Onyx pen themselves, the Lamy made in Germany pen, and they just throw all that aside and you're left with this very normal experience, and it really is just, it leaves you lacking all the character and personality that made Onyx such a note-taking giant in the first place. And believe it or not, accept it if you want or not, pens and e-notes, and to a lesser extent e-readers, at least in the past 10 years, go hand in hand. They very well do. Even when Onyx releases an e-reader, there's still pen integration. Regardless of where you go, you're gonna have to live and die by the pen when it comes to notes, when it comes to marking up annotations, and a lot of the features that is so heavily integrated into units exactly like this one.
It's called the Subaru Sandbar. One of the K-trucks in the world that's not technically real, as only Mitsubishi, Daihatsu, Suzuki, and Honda make K-cars. So what we have here is a rebadge. But what's interesting about this one in particular is there's only 24,000 kilometers on the odometer. However, when you see it, it's unmistakably a Subaru.
Go 7 honestly doesn't do much in terms of advancing the e-reader industry. It simply exists as just another device released by Onyx. The operating system is similar, there's no additional features, and they elected to not go with the already 2-year industry available 8+256 setup for their RAM and storage respectively. This does feel like a case of one step forward, one step back, as they're basically in the exact same place they've been in for a couple years now. Dropping Wacom is honestly the biggest thing about this and is the most concerning with this current release line. The over-reliance on a single proprietary pen with specialized tips and a poor writing feel does raise a few flags, as they're backing this through 3 of their current devices in their lineup. If you guys think we're completely off, let us know down below. Otherwise, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.